if you would, take some time to tell your story and share with us.
Sure. I have my oldest son, Nico, here. He's kind of attached to me, and he's been attached to me since day one. He's a little bit of a ham. So my spouse and I have been together since 1996, so we've been together for a very long time. And we've been talking about having children pretty much from day one. And as I was getting closer to my 50th birthday, we just had to decide we were going to have children or we were not going to have children. And we finally made the commitment to have children. And one of our biggest concerns is obviously the expense. So we did our research. Both of us are very much sort of research-oriented people. And we had been to Panama before. So we decided that in order to save expense, we had been to Panama. We drove by this hospital that had a Johns Hopkins affiliation. And we said, oh, someone's offering services for surrogacy services at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Panama. Well, we did it. We sent our donor down there, and it turned out to be pretty much a disaster, if you will. The communication was a disaster. We don't think the medical care was particularly good. The egg donor didn't think the medical care was particularly good. So we ended up with, I think, a woman who was a proven donor who had normally given about 40 eggs. At that time, they extracted, I think, 18, and none of them turned into anything past 3-day embryos. So we decided to sort of like, we're either going to do it or not, and they decided we're going to do it in the States this time. And so we went around, we did our research again, and we figured we were going to we had two criteria to choose who we're going to work with this time. One was success rate, and the other one was interpersonal relationships. So we immediately went about interviewing agencies, surrogacy agencies, egg donation agencies, lawyers, as well as IVF clinics. And we think we together a very, very good team, a team that really worked very well for us. In terms of our surrogacy agency, we work with an agency, Family Source, out of Chicago, and the reason we chose them was I, in particular, am not particularly good with hierarchy and bureaucracy. And from day one, in our first conversation I had with them, I felt as though I was dealing with someone who really understood me, and there was not a lot of hierarchy and bureaucracy between me, the surrogate, and basically there was a problem between the people who would be sort of liaisoning between the two. Our egg donation agency was out of California, was EDI, Egg Donor Inc., and our egg donor was a woman from Orange County, California. Nico was born 7 pounds and Mark was born 8 pounds, so they're big boys. We interviewed a number of IVF doctors, and we chose Dr. Hesla of Oregon Reproductive. We are on the Upper West Side, by the way, and we chose the best people for us. And it was based on a number of factors, and not only scientific results, but also sort of interpersonal results. And we felt very comfortable with Dr. Hesla, the information that we had received in our conversations with him. And our lawyer was a woman out of Illinois, and we ended up with being chosen. We chose an agency out of Illinois because Illinois, from what we understood, had the best surrogacy law in the country. And the woman that we used as our lawyer, both for our egg donor, you'll need a lot of different contracts along the way, for our lawyer as well as for a gestational surrogate who was also in Illinois, was a woman who actually wrote the gestational surrogacy law in Illinois. Her name is Julie Tavosa. We were very happy. We sent our donor and our surrogate out to Oregon. I think the biggest compliment is how somebody treats sort of someone who's not paying. And our surrogate said she's never really been treated as nicely or as well as she has been with Dr. Hesla. So I think that's a huge compliment. I mean, we're the ones paying the bill, so I figure they kind of has to be nice to us. But to be nice to a patient who's really not paying the bill, it's a remarkable statement for him. Our surrogacy process here in the States was very, very smooth. Family Source made it very, very smooth. Our matching process, we received a number of profiles from a number of different potential surrogates. We spoke to one because we did want one specifically in the state of Illinois. And we filled out a form, and we filled out an application, basically. And surprisingly, this is kind of a weird conversation and a weird relationship you have with a woman. You really don't know her that well, and you're meeting her for the first time on the phone. We spoke with she and her husband for the first time for an hour and a half. And the thing that actually sort of made us click is I wrote in our application, they asked you, what do you do for fun? And then I happened to write down that my guilty pleasure is reality television. And so the end of the conversation took 30 minutes talking about the Real Housewives. And I figured what surrogate wouldn't want, after that conversation, it kind of struck me like what surrogate wouldn't want to have a couple who talked about Real Housewives every day. If you have nothing else to talk about, you talk about reality television. We actually had a very nice relationship. Maybe talk about our relationship with our surrogate. It is a long process. It is a stressful process on all parties. There are good times. We didn't actually have any bad times, but there are some good times and better times. It's oftentimes best to use an agency because there are issues that arise that you don't necessarily want to deal with directly, or at least we didn't want to deal with directly. And it ended up with us, I say in terms of success, we had, I think we have 15 5-day embryos cryopreserved right now. Most of them are the highest grade. I asked the endocrinologist at Dr. Hesla's office, how are you going to choose which ones to choose? And she's going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And our surrogate was fabulous. We ended up with twins. They were born at 37 weeks, 1 day. Nico was a smaller twin at 7 pounds. And Marco was a larger twin at 8 pounds. And so we were in Southern Illinois, and the next day the doctor came in and said, you can go. And so all the fears about us going to the NICU and everything else was really non-existent. And everything from then has been, well, as you'll find out when you are parents, it's an interesting ride.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa Basiliere. I was a surrogate for actually a heterosexual couple who now have 3.5-year-old twin boys. And this journey really started for me, gosh, maybe 8 years ago when a very good friend of mine was told that due to a medical condition she could not carry on her own. I have 5 beautiful, amazing children of my own, ranging from almost 5 to almost 18 years old. So we get the whole circus at our house. And so, my friend kind of moved on from where we were locally and moved to Indiana. But the thought of kind of helping someone have the gifts that I had kind of stuck for me. So I started looking into surrogacy agencies throughout New England, and I met with a couple, and I found Vicky Ferreira at Worldwide, and there was an instant connection there, and with Serena, the liaison. So we started the process of screening and all of that, and at the time I had 4 of my children. So we started the screening and all of that, and I was about to be matched, and I had to call Serena and tell her, oops, I'm expecting my 5th child. So that was a little bit of a surprise. So after I had my 5th child, I was a little unsure. Is this going to be a lot for me? Can I give a family what they need in this whole process? The thought of being pregnant again was a little, kind of scary. But then after a few months, Serena asked me to read a file of this family, and instantly I fell in love with them. So we actually had met, I think we met in March of that year. So we took a really long time getting to know each other and creating a really strong relationship and understanding kind of what they were hoping to get out of the journey, what was I hoping to get out of the journey. And we did our transfer in September of 2009. And we were initially going to transfer just 1 embryo. And I actually worked with Dr. Doyle, who is absolutely just the sweetest man, and I'm really excited to be working with him again. And so initially we were going to do 1 embryo. And as we were driving to the transfer, Mom and Dad called and they said, we went out to dinner and my sister said we should do 2. Would you do 2? I said, if you do 2, you're going to have 2 babies. I promise you're going to have 2 babies. So we did 2, and that 9-day wait, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the 9-day wait, it's hell. As a surrogate, it's the most uncomfortable, scary days of your life because you're just waiting and you're peeing on sticks and you're praying to God and you're just waiting for that beta day. So we found out that we had a positive beta, and then a few weeks later we had our ultrasound with Dr. Doyle. And as soon as I saw the screen, I was just like, they got their 2 babies. So 2010, April 30th of 2010, they had 2 beautiful little boys, 5 pounds 11 and 5 pounds 12 ounces. My relationship with them is amazing. The boys are 3.5. We're still very, very close. We're about an hour and 45 minutes apart from each other, but we see each other all the time. We talk to each other all the time. I'm so glad I don't have twin little boys. But it's just, for me, it's been really amazing watching them grow as a family and watching the struggles and the joys and all of that. And, I think the most important thing for me was that it was just such an amazing collaborative effort together between Vicky's office and Dr. Doyle's office and with mom and dad and my own family. And it's so powerful that it's a connection that you just have forever, that I'll have for the rest of my life with them, with Dr. Doyle, with Vicky and Serena. It's just really, it's just powerful, and it's amazing. And so I'm in the initial stages of working with a couple, James and Andrew, from Connecticut, and hopefully looking into helping them on their journey as well.
Thank you. George.
Hi guys and everybody. My name is Georges Sylvestre, and it's really a delight to be here and share my experience with you. I'm married with David Margolis, who can't be here today. We met in 2006, and in 2007 we got married. We thought of having children. It's funny because I was in my late 30s when I got married, in mid 30s, and this is kind of a dream I had given up on. And it didn't really matter to me not to have kids. And when I met a spouse that really wanted children, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I always wanted children. Why would I give that up and that dream away? And from what I hear, it's still possible to have children as a gay man. And so we started the process, and I was sitting in this not this very room, but this very conference in 2008. And 2009, we got the process going, and we're pregnant within a few months, and had our first child in 2010, Tristan, that you met, obviously. He's very noisy. And it's really been a wonderful experience to have this first child. Now, I had to go into the process and drop my OBGYN hat because I'm an obstetrician and I work in high-risk pregnancies. So it doesn't create any conflict with my infertility colleagues. But what I saw at work in my 17 years of career is that infertility would create patients to me, and sometimes, okay, now here use quadruplets and do triplets and deal with them because we're done. And I realized that there was a lot of risk sometimes involved in IVF pregnancies. But then I was not a patient, but I was not the doctor anymore. I was like the intended parent. So it was an interesting journey for me. We chose for both pregnancies to have one child at a time. And because I think, in my opinion, there's so much unknown when you become a parent. So much unknown in terms of what genes you're going to get, what colorize, what temperament child you're going to get. This is the rare thing that actually I have control of, how many embryos you transfer. Because I knew if we transferred 2 embryos, we had about 20 to 30% chance of twins. And because I'm a high-risk obstetrician, the twins that I saw usually already had problems. The normal twins stay in the community, and fortunately, most of them do well. And that's the truth. But still, I thought there was less of a risk with singleton. So our first journey through surrogacy involved a gestational carrier from Connecticut, which was logistically easier the first time around because it was closer. I apologize. If I don't speak loud, I also have an accent. Please raise your hand and ask me questions. Yes, I was saying the first gestational carrier was in Connecticut, and logistically it was easier than Chicago for the second time around. And it went very, very smoothly. We have a good relationship with the gestational carrier of our first child, Tristan. And it's, I think we got into this in terms of like the relationship you develop with your surrogate. It's important to establish this first, as you know. And ours is like, let's see how it goes. We're open to exchanging letters, to see each other once in a while, or to just close the door, and if it's mutual agreement by all of us. And it worked out perfectly in both cases. And our journey was not perfectly smooth in terms of clinical details, and I'll be happy to answer questions about this. It never worked on the first tries, and this is something people often don't talk about, like the failures, and failures are painful. The 9-day wait is painful, especially when it's followed by negative pregnancy test, and that's the journey to go through. So, but nevertheless, if you're patient, ultimately it happens. So we went through the pregnancy and delivery of the first child, and I was lucky enough to be there at the delivery, actually to deliver my own child, which was a pretty amazing feeling. And a year later, we tried again with our same gestational carrier, and it didn't work after several tries. And I was devastated, and because I really wanted my children to be close in age. I'm a year and a bit apart from my brother, and we're so close. It didn't work out that way. And in retrospect, exactly 3 years apart worked perfectly fine for me and us as a couple. So we looked for a surrogate again through the same agency, Reproductive Possibility, and they found Corbie. And I think Corbie is just wonderful. And Chicago, where she's from, of all the far cities from New York City, Chicago is relatively easy to get to in terms of flight. It's a big city. And Corbie is a wonderful person, has three wonderful little boys. And what I was looking into a surrogate was not only somebody who had easy and smooth pregnancy, but somebody who was also very stable. I listened to the way she was raising her children and her relationship with her husband and her physician and her community, something which was important to me. And as an OB, sometimes you wonder, because I speak to my colleagues from abroad, like, is it ethical to do this? And I came to the conclusion that it's totally ethical to have a gestational carrier, because many of my patients, actually I shouldn't say many, maybe 5 to 10% of my patients are just happier pregnant than non-pregnant. They just enjoy pregnancy so much that I think it's very unfair to compare surrogacy as to sell an organ. It has nothing to do with one another. And Corbie really fit the bill to that. She had easy pregnancies, smooth pregnancies, everything went very well. And nevertheless, we still missed the delivery because logistically speaking, if you have a surrogate for the second child, you know it's much more difficult to organize childcare for your one that stays, and you cannot just hop on a flight and go to Chicago when labor starts, and which is really what happened. And we just couldn't be happier. Noah was born in April 28th of this year. He's almost 6 months. He's wonderful. Everything was very smooth. We're very pleased with the laws of Chicago, but we also had a very good experience in Massachusetts, where the first delivery took place. So our first gestational carrier was from Connecticut, but delivered in Massachusetts. And we couldn't be more pleased. And I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of this. Thank you.
Thanks, George. And finally, Corbie.
All right, my name is Corbie Dimopoulos. I'm from Chicago. Like George said, I've got 3 boys of my own. Not quite done, I don't think, with my family yet, but not ready for my own right now. So I've got a lot of notes here. Be patient with me. I'm a rookie here too this year, like many of you. My motivation, my journey unknowingly started when I was probably 25 and I became an egg donor. My husband and I had always loved having children, and at that time we had 2 boys of our own. And I thought, well, it would be kind of cool to be able to give that special gift to somebody else. That was anonymous, so I don't even know. I think that there were 19 eggs harvested, and I don't know. My children could be running around the street somewhere. That's, yeah, maybe here, no. But you know, I wanted to do more, and I went in for a second egg donation, and I was told that my FSH levels were, I think, too high, and that I probably wouldn't be able to have kids of my own. And you know, then it kind of hit me like, wow, you know, this infertility could be a problem of mine someday. Well, then I got pregnant with my 3rd son, just like that. So after I had Jacob, I really, I wanted to do more. So I thought about surrogacy, which is something I've always thought about doing. And after a lot of convincing of my husband, we both agreed that this would be something that would be kind of cool to do. I had very easy pregnancies, so it really made sense that this would be a good fit for us. And this whole process that goes on between all the clinics and the lawyers and the agencies, it really amazes me. And the eventual birth of the child and being able to see him grow up is really an amazing thing to see. All right, relationship with the intended parents. I think that we started out very open with each other, and we Skyped, and it's very important that everybody is on the same page. Like they said earlier, you really have to make sure that what you want is what your surrogate wants is the same thing that you want. I definitely wanted to have one baby. There was no doubt about that. I wasn't looking to have more than one. That was very important for me. I think that our relationship really became a lot more real after we had the transfer done, and I find it kind of funny. I always joke around because after the transfer, I had to be in bed for a little while, and David came over, and we watched The New Normal, which, like Baby Mama, is like really kind of unrealistic, but it actually followed my entire pregnancy, almost like to the T. It was really crazy, but not really realistic. Well, David came over to our hotel room and brought his laptop over, and we watched the first episode. And it was the first time I think that my husband had ever been laying in bed with another man. And I think that really, just kind of shows you what kind of relationship that we have. And I'm really, really glad that it is such an open relationship. Let's see here. As a surrogate, there's a lot of responsibility, right from the get-go, the communication aspect is very key. You have to be at anyone's beck and call at any time. If these guys were calling me, or the agency was calling me, or the clinic was calling me, I had to be there and ready to do whatever they wanted me to do. And then the medications too, that's a lot. So be very, once your surrogate starts on those medications and she starts becoming very hormonal, which happens right away, just know that it's just part of the process, and it's not necessarily anything that you're doing or anything. I don't think that I shared my hormones like that with you, but my husband definitely got his fair share of that. Working with gay intended parents, I think, was wonderful for me. I don't think that I went into this necessarily thinking that I was going to be a surrogate for gay intended parents, but I really wouldn't have had it any other way. I think it's a great thing, and I think that George told me one time when we were Skyping, he said, I deliver babies all the time to people who don't want them, and we want this baby so bad. You have to start crying. Okay. Support from my partner. It's different for a surrogate to be pregnant with somebody's baby that's not their own. You go into it and you know that it's not your own, and that's okay, but the intimacy between two people and when you're carrying your own baby is a lot different than when you're not. So I definitely felt like my husband felt some disconnect. We still have a great relationship. We had a great relationship during the whole thing. But I really, and I know that George and David, we would Skype with them, and they always wanted to make him feel included, because I think that he's the one person in all of this that really kind of got put to the side. Not intentionally, but that's just what happens. My 3 boys, I remember after I had Noah, we were very open with them the entire time. My middle child did not want us to have another baby or have a baby for someone else. He wanted us to have one for ourselves. And so it took a lot of time to get him used to the idea. But after I had Noah, they came home from school and they said, I told my teacher today and all my classmates that you had a baby and that you had a baby for someone else, and so to see that they made that connection was just really cool for me, and I think a great experience for them. Friends and family reaction. I did not tell anybody publicly, besides my very close friends and family, that I was expecting until I was about 20 weeks. So I was showing at that point in time. And I think people had some speculation that I was pregnant. There's just a lot of questions that you get when you are pregnant for yourself, and having to repeat it over and over and over again is one thing, and then throwing surrogacy into it is a whole different ballgame. So I chose not to make it public, and I still have people come up to me all the time. You know, oh, didn't you just have a baby? And then I have to explain it all over again, or, you know, so there was just that thing where it was, I only let as much information out as I felt comfortable with when I was talking to the person. I really had to read the people that I was talking to. I'm in the business where I talk to people all the time, and sometimes it's random people that are in and out of my business. So it's like, you know, the comfort level, I really had to feel comfortable with them before I actually, like, you know, told them what I was doing. My vision and feeling regarding long-term relationship with the family. Well, I'm staying with them this weekend, and I think that it's awesome. I never thought that I would be able to see Noah at this point in time, so I knew that we would come out here eventually, but you know, for us to fly 5 of us out here, it's expensive, and to take the time off to drive would be very time-consuming. So Men Having Babies being able to give me the opportunity to come out here and you know, see, they're like a whole nother family to me. I call them my New York City boys, because I have all boys at home, and then they're my New York City boys, and they always text me, love from your New York City boys. So it's for me, it's just a whole different, when I had my own children, your heart expands to the size that you could never imagine, but to do it for somebody else, there's a whole nother, like, area in your heart there that opens up when you do that. And it was a great experience for me. I think that, you know, the journey that you guys are going to go through is going to be, it's going to be an amazing one, and I wish you all the best of luck.